now. Okay, so first 15 kilometers are gone, almost. It's 15 out of 50, and my blood sugars are doing okay. 187 now, coming from 140. So what I did was, so as I was saying, my blood sugars are 187. Latest reading 200, because I ate 60 grams of carbs, and so I was a little bit insulin resistant this morning. So what I did was giving some units of insulin, 8 if you're curious, but this is my dose, not your dose. And I knew that with 8 today I could afford around 100 grams of carbs, but I wanted to avoid a spike. So what I did was eating only 1/3, so like around 30 grams, and then keeping the rest for like a few minutes before the start. And I didn't eat all of it to start in range and help running, you know, reactivate the insulin. And so right now I started after the first 10K. I was trending down 140. I prefer to stay above 150, so I took the gel, keeping half for the remaining, 10K. I'm going to eat according to my blood sugar trends, and yeah, now we have a steep elevated hill. So yeah, I will put the phone down and focus on the running, and yeah, let's see by kilometer 20 and 30 what's going on, and then we have around 35 more kilometers. So let's go. Okay, so update from the race. It's 27 kilometers, and I had a little bit of an up and down with my blood sugars. So after the first 60 carbs, I went from 170 to 280, but then it came down like in half an hour, and now I am 190, trending down. So I'm going to eat another 20 grams of carbohydrates, pure glucose. Now it's on the steepest part of the race. For another 5K we're gonna go uphill, so perfect timing to slow down and let glucose digest. So we pick it up, and then we have another 20K. The goal is to arrive at kilometer number 30 with, a stable trend and not trending down like now. So I need glucose to pick it up and a lower pace to let it act. So that's the plan. Now we keep walk run a little bit, hydrating. It's very warm, and then we arrive at kilometer 30. So it's, I don't know if you can see, I don't know if you could see the blood sugars, but it's 307. So I made a big mistake at kilometer 28. I was trending at 180, trending down, and I was like, okay, I need to get a gel because I still have 20 kilometers, and that's gonna be full speed almost, because it was like downhill. So I was like, okay, I need energy, and so I gave one gel, so 20 grams of carbs, and then I gave, I saw the arrow still trending down at 170, 160, if I remember correctly at least. And I was like, okay, I need another gel. I just was not confident. I was a little bit scared. I never approached an ultra distance, so I was like, okay, I need some extra fuel. Big mistake. I think that the heat, it's really, really warm today. The heat plus my, you know, I'm not so insulin sensitive these days. The combination of the two produced a big spike, like almost immediately. I went from 180 and then I saw like plus 15 on my CGM and then plus 40 again. I was like, oh my god, what did I do? And so now I'm just managing it, the pace, you know, the mental resources. I'm drinking water. I need to stay hydrated at least, and trying to stay positive. You know, I made a mistake. It's a new situation for me. Probably I could have avoided it, but still, I will give myself some grace. And so now it's we are approaching kilometer 42. So the marathon and then everything else is making me an ultra marathoner today. See you later. Okay, so kilometer 48 out of 50. So only two to go. My blood sugars now are 201, trending down. So in the last 40 minutes I dropped 150 points. I stopped taking gels because, you know, so I adjusted my pace again and they're now coming down. So at least I am finishing this ultra in range. But for sure there are many lessons to unpack for the 100k coming in less than 30 days. So now we'll get to the finish line and then we unpack the lessons. Okay, little change of scenery to unpack the learnings from yesterday. I'm out here in Rimini, Italy, doing another 16 kilometers just to complete, you know, to conclude and wrap the weekend, the long weekend. And so yeah, I mean, looking in retrospect, I think that the biggest mistake I did yesterday was giving gels too quickly, eating them too quickly, because every time I ate a gel I would spike, but then it would always come down even below 200. So it was not a problem of not having insulin or not being able to burn through that glucose. It was just about the delivery of that glucose. And so that was the biggest thing I think I missed, and that I need to adjust for the next one. Another thing that I did wrong, well, I mean, I wouldn't say it was my mistake, but definitely the heat was unexpected, and that definitely had an impact on the organic stress. And so definitely I can see the cortisol spike there, because I mean, I had, you know, I gave the insulin in the morning, I ate carbs, but not all of the carbs, so I knew I had a buffer just because I didn't want to spike. And so I kept those ghost carbs you know, as an option for the first kilometers of the race, which is what I did. But then, yeah, maybe like being too fast at eating the gels and the heat that immediately struck us, and you cannot see it, but I'm burned underneath this t-shirt. I think that also played a big part. And a third mistake that I did was actually, so if you remember, right before kilometer 30, you know, we were reaching the peak, and then we had 20 kilometers downhill, pure running. And I was like, yeah, my blood sugars are trending down 170, etc. So I will for sure go low in the upcoming 20k. And so what I did was eating 2 gels. I really needed one, and I probably also needed to eat it lower than I did, but instead I got 2 back to back. And true, I was running for the 20 kilometers afterwards, but the demand on my body was not as tough as running uphill or running on flat, you know, so my muscles were not as engaged probably, and so I was not burning through all the glucose at the rate that I was expecting. And so I had a spike around kilometer 40, but then again it came down, and by kilometer 50 I was at 190. So still it worked, the insulin at least. And then came the aftermath. So I arrived, I knew I was in a huge deficit and super hungry and super thirsty. So first thing, I drank water with something salty, because the amount of sweat, I think I lost like 3 kilograms yesterday only in liquids. So I immediately drank a lot of water with salt. Then I gave insulin. Not gonna tell you how much, because I don't want you to think that that's the dose that does it for everyone. It was the dose for me on that day, but it was approximately half the dose I would normally give, you know, for a recovery meal, because, you know, I was peaking in insulin sensitivity, just around 50k. And so I knew that the trend would be downwards by default. And I ate fruit, some bread, some chocolate, some Coca-Cola, so mostly sugary things, which made sense, and also some protein bars. So lots of carbs, but I needed them for recovery. I had to run again today, so I needed to immediately give back some energy. And afterwards I went up to 220, I think, and then I came down again. And then for dinner, I knew I had already a lot of insulin on board, or some insulin on board, and the delay peak insulin sensitivity was going to hit. So I gave 1/5 of a dose for my dinner, which was essentially sandwich, the piadina from the region here, typical meal, super nice, and I let it, you know, operate and see what was going to be the response. And then I fell asleep, and I forgot to give the extra dose, the correction dose. And what happened was that at 2 in the morning I was at 300 because I forgot to dose, and also probably my basal insulin is too low these days. So I gave a couple of units. I woke up with 160, and then I came here for a run, and now we are at 190, super flat. So I'm stoked. At least that worked. So yeah, as you can see, it's not always so smooth, but I think that the most important thing is to not like label this as a failure, or, you know, events like this as failures. as long as you know, take some time to reflect on what you did well, what you did less well. You know, every mistake carries a lesson, and so we are here to learn. And this video, and also probably the next video with a more detailed breakdown with like the CGM graph in front of me, and also the next newsletter issue are going to dive deeper into some of the dynamics that I mentioned today, because I need to dive deeper. And so yeah, it was a crazy weekend. I am now 17 kilometers through. This is just a cool down, and just for your knowledge, your information, today, I don't know if you can see, it's 174. Today blood sugars behaved, so already some of the adjustment that I made since yesterday worked. And a double win, because after an ultra or a marathon or a big run, you know, everything is so much different, just because you are peaking, your metabolism, your metabolic rates are so different by default. And so, you know, I already got a win. I'm already compensating, I'm already learning. Oh, nice. Thank you. See you in the next video.